2, 1. Okay, so for this lab, always make sure that we are storing our data in the right spot. So we go here. So you see I have Lab1b folder. Here's my project file. And here is another project file. Here's the data. So we have all these different things, these geodatabases, these ATBX, and then here's all of our files from that Lab1a that we were using. So always make sure that you're storing everything in the same place, because if you don't, it can make it really hard to find files later, and it can confuse the software sometimes. So what I'm going to do, let's go ahead and share this screen. So let's go ahead and start a new project. Name it Lab1 GDP Proj. Okay. Go back to this. Lab1 GDP Proj. And then we're going to navigate to our file folder. So I'm using it. I always use a flash drive. That's what I always use. Let's go here. This, and we'll have 1B. Okay. So this is where I store my stuff. So we'll click OK, and then we'll make our new project file. You can see the name up here as lab1_GDP_proj. So now that that is created, I'm going to go, so it's loading, right? So we look back here. This page here on page 3 is showing us what all of these files look like inside of the computer. So if I open my file explorer and I go to my Lab1b, there's the project folder that I created, creating the new project. And here's the project file, the geodatabase, the database table, and then all of the other stuff that we don't necessarily work about right now. So whenever you create a project file, it automatically makes a geodatabase. Now, if you choose the start without a template option, it will name the geodatabase default.gdb because you have not saved it to a file yet. But since we'll start from map new project for this one. So let's go back. So over here in the catalog pane, all of these different things, you guys hit save. Okay. So here's our database here. As you can see, there's nothing in it right now. So what we are going to do sorry. Okay. So we are going to do new file geodatabase, right? And this is where we're choosing where to store it. Okay. So it's in our lab 1. And I always check, always navigate back through my folders to make sure I'm putting it in the right spot. So you always want to save all this stuff in the same area you're saving the project file in. So this project file that I made is in this Lab1b folder. There's that. And here we go. And we will name it test GDB1. So save that. And there it goes, it showed up. Sometimes it can take a second. Import feature class is what we're doing. So pull up the geoprocessing pane, feature class to geodatabase, and we'll choose our input features. Go back. Go back to my flash drive, my folder for this class. Here's the data folder, and we want our lakes. So select it, click OK, and we can actually do the second one as well, which would be the roads. Yep, lakes and roads. Back. Let's go into our test. And all we do is click run. And let that convert it all. It's going to switch it over from that data folder into our geodatabase. So that way we don't have to navigate through all our file folders, and it will, now that this is done, if we go back to our catalog pane and click this drop down, now these are here without having to search through our folders, right? So we have that. And now all I have to do is just drag and drop from this sign. Give it a second. And there we go. And here's the lakes. Or the roads, rather, sorry. Okay. So the geoprocessing tool looks a little different than what's in this picture. This feature class to feature class. Let's see. Analysis, tools, to open the geoprocessing pane. Yeah, so this tool is deprecated and is going to be removed. So that is why the instructions in the PDF look different than what you actually get when you do all the clicking, right? So we don't need to use this. This is an old version. So if we go back to that catalog pane, we do that import, that page is going to look feature class to geodatabase, and we don't have to worry about all of the extra information that's on this thing here. Okay. So we've imported the lakes and roads. And so now we've created a copy of those, right? In that test geodatabase. So the next step he wants us to do is he wants us to make a featured data set instead of just featured classes. So featured data set is basically a type of, basically think of it as a folder that holds all those feature class data layers. So inside of the geodatabase. So think of your geodatabase as your file explorer, and then your think of it as a big file folder, and then each of these are little files. But what we can do is we can create a featured data set, which is like a subfolder inside of the geodatabase, and it can store multiple different featured classes. So we'll make a name for it. And he wants us to name it My First FDS. So My First FDS. And my first featured data set. So we're just making sure it's going to the right. So Lab1b, here's that project file, and we're sending it to the test GDB database, okay? So click OK. Now that we've selected that, and now it's going to the right place. All we have to do is click run, give it a minute, and then sweet. So now if we go to our catalog, see, there's our feature data set, but it's empty because we haven't added anything to it yet, okay? So it says now we can import so go here. So we'll do new feature class, and this is us creating um, our feature class layer, things over here on this left-hand side, from scratch, essentially. So we'll do new lakes. And then next we have to specify a polygon geometry type. So when you're working with vector layers, as he's probably mentioned in class so far, so you have points, lines, and polygons, right? So since this one was for lakes, we're going to do it as polygons because line and point don't make sense. So we're going to be showing area like this, a polygon, if you will. And these are just different ways of conceptualizing real world things and then organizing them in a spatial data layer. And if you ever are not sure what a certain thing does, you can. Some of them will have a little eye next to the input feature, the thing that you would put something in, and hovering over that will tell you, kind of give you a little bit of information about what this is actually going to do when you put information in there. So for example, the geometry type, we're just not showing up on here because we're on a newer version of Arc Pro. So the eye isn't there, but it already says your types of features stored in the feature class. So in a feature class type instead of geometry type. So we'll choose polygon. And then instead of it being a big long list, it's divided into pages. For right now, you don't have to worry about any of the pages. We'll just accept all the defaults. So we'll just click finish. I'll create that new feature class. And there we go. So our new lakes shapefiles inside of our file geodatabase, the featured data set. Okay. So it should, in theory, look like that page on the last page on page 11 of the PDF. Your catalog pane should look like this over here. So we have our geo database that has two featured classes just in it. And then we have our featured data set, which can hold multiple feature classes or the layers that we add to a map. And inside of that, we have another feature class, which is that new lakes. And your new lakes, since we're just creating it, it's not going to have let's see. So the new lakes, it's not supposed to have anything in it, just to clarify. So just to reiterate, when you're making geodatabases, make sure that your project is saved in the right place. Um, see your project as, show you where it's at. So that's not it. Let's go to share my screen. So actually what we'll do, so I'll go ahead and save this. So this is what your end project should look like. You should have the lakes, the roads, and mine doesn't say that underscore IMP because we do not have to specify the output, um, if that makes sense. So what I mean by that is if we go back up to these other steps, we are not having to specify the output feature class because it's a newer version of Arc Pro. It does all of this, it does some of this for us, and we don't have to manually input as much. So all for us that we have to do is the input is to tell it what the input feature is and tell it the output location, which is that geodatabase. And then from there, it'll go ahead, you click run and it'll add it there, and we don't change the name. So it'll just say lakes and roads. Um, so when you are making a geodatabase, make sure that it is being saved in the correct location. So I have my lab1, my lab1b files. Here's the project file itself, because when you save a project, it creates its own file folder that it saves all of the data in. And that is how you should organize stuff. You shouldn't be saving stuff outside of it and whatnot. So that way it's all in one place. Here's the project file. Here's my geodatabase. And if we open that, let's see, none of that matters right now. So yeah, so there's our things. If we open that test underscore GDP underscore one back in here, that's what this is right here. So I hope that helps. If you need any help, just email me.